You can adapt, or you can sulk. I'm not changing who I am, my wife of 8 years said, about her coworker. So I ended it that night, and she adapted to silence. Hey Reddit, figured I'd share a story I think some of you will appreciate. It's not short, but it's got everything. Office drama, bad decisions, HR folders thicker than phone books, and my wife proving she could speedrun tanking her entire life in record time. So, me. I'm 31 male, pretty average on paper, steady job, good income, not flashy but not struggling either. I'm not the post on Reddit for advice type, but after everything that went down, I realized this is exactly the kind of story people come here to read. I met Amanda, 30 female, back in our early 20s. We clicked quick. She was smart, funny, sarcastic in a way that matched me, and she had this driven personality that made her seem like she'd always be going places. We dated, we got serious, and before long, we were married. For a long time, it felt solid. We weren't one of those couples who hated being around each other after a few years. We still hung out, still laughed, still had our routines. I trusted her. She trusted me. At least that's what I thought. Through the marriage, Amanda was the type who wanted everything stable but also wanted attention from everyone. She liked being admired. She liked people noticing her, whether it was at work or socially. I brushed it off for years because it never seemed like more than surface level stuff. She was dependable at home and I never thought she'd cross a line. That was my mistake. Fast forward 8 years in, Tuesday night, nothing unusual. I'm on my laptop, she's on hers. I'm half scrolling through some work stuff, she's clacking away at her emails. If she's got spreadsheets open, fine. If she's doom scrolling, fine. We're not glued to each other's screens after almost a decade. But then her inbox pings, and she stiffens up like the IRS just sent her a bill for $1 million. I glance over, and there it is. An email from some guy named Colin. Subject line, dinner? At first, I think maybe it's a group outing. Work people get drinks, hang out, whatever. But then, I actually see the body of the email, and it says, no joke, you free for dinner this week? Just you and me, no work talk. That's not a team event. That's not even subtle. That's a guy asking my wife out like he just matched her on an app. I ask her, calm as ever, who the hell is Colin? And that's where the whole mess begins. She then gives me the standard throwaway line, just a coworker. Just a coworker doesn't invite you out alone after hours and specify no work talk. That's not how professional life works unless the profession is homewrecking. So I tell her we're going to have a conversation, right now. She rolls her eyes like I'm overreacting, which is always the move when someone gets caught. I lay it out plain. Emotional stuff counts. Keeping secrets counts. If you're hiding messages or making special time for another guy, that's cheating whether or not your clothes stay on. If some dude buys you coffee, you say thanks, but no thanks. If he asks you to dinner, you don't go. Work talk stays in work channels. Nothing on personal phones, nothing that can't be read out loud. And on top of that, we should do counseling. Clean it up before it gets worse. I call it the marriage reset. You'd think a sane person would say yes to that. It's basically me putting a guardrail around the marriage so we don't drive it off a cliff. Instead, she smirks and says, I'm not doing all that. That's extreme. Extreme, I say. Extreme would be me packing your bags and tossing them on the porch. This is the bare minimum for a healthy marriage. She laughs. Small, mean. What are we doing here? A performance improvement plan? You're not my manager. I'm not signing your little policy sheet. She tips her chin at me. I'm allowed to have friends. I like attention. That doesn't mean I'm sleeping with anyone. Colin asked me to dinner because I'm interesting. That isn't a crime. She holds my stare. It's a spark I'm allowed to feel, she says. I give so much to this marriage. I deserve to feel wanted sometimes. It's not about crimes, I tell her. It's about respect. Respect goes both ways, she fires back. Respect me enough to live my life without you auditing my phone. I'm not 14, and you don't own my calendar. If I want dinner with a friend, I'll have dinner with a friend. She shrugs, casual like she's ordering coffee. And honestly, Colin actually listens. He doesn't make everything heavy. Sometimes I need a break from this. She waves at the space between us. If that rattles you, maybe work on your insecurity instead of handing me rules. I ask her flat out, are you going to shut this down with Colin or not? She doesn't blink. I don't see why I should have to. It's just talking. Then she twists the knife. And let's be real. You're not going to do anything about it. You like your comfortable life. You're careful. You won't blow it up. I mean, she smiles like she's humoring a child. So stop pretending you're drawing a hard line. You can adapt, or you can sulk. I'm not changing who I am. So at that moment, I realize I'm not dealing with someone who wants to fix anything. She's already halfway committed to seeing how far she can push it. I tell her, fine, make your choice, but I'm making mine. The next morning, I call a lawyer. No point wasting time. I explain everything. The email, her flat refusal to agree to boundaries, the fact that she's clearly fine entertaining this clown from work. Lawyer says it's straightforward. We'll file for divorce, serve her legally, and let the process move along. He explains service, settlement, proof, all the legal nuts and bolts. Exactly what I want. No drama, no games, no me looking like a lunatic. Just clean paperwork and consequences. From that moment, I cut Amanda off from direct discussions. She doesn't get my explanations anymore. She doesn't get midnight heart-to-hearts. She gets a lawyer's email address. If she wants something from the house, her lawyer can send mine a message. If she wants to argue, she can pay an hourly rate to someone in a suit to do it for her. She doesn't realize it yet, but she signed her own walking papers when she refused the reset. She thinks she's clever. She thinks she can have it both ways. Keep me at home paying the bills, while she goes on pretend harmless outings with Colin. But the second she looked me in the eye and told me no to basic respect, that was it. There's no fixing that. It's the mechanical equivalent of being told your brakes are gone and deciding to coast. You don't negotiate with failure. You fix it or you crash. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I didn't make speeches about how much we've been through. I didn't call her family or blast her on social media. I just called my lawyer and started the paperwork. Quiet, efficient, boring even. But that's what she earned. She wanted excitement? She can go get it from Colin. I'm not running a circus. Funny part is, she probably thought the worst thing I'd do is sulk or throw a fit. She never expected me to treat it like a business problem. But that's exactly what it is. Marriage is a contract. She violated the terms, contract's void. Move on. And that was how it started. One dumb email from a coworker who thinks a wedding ring is optional, one wife who thinks she's entitled to play games, and me deciding I'm not going to sit around pretending it's fine. I don't do begging. I don't do open marriages. I don't do it's just talking. I do hard boundaries and documented endings. After I lawyered up, things started moving faster than Amanda probably ever expected. It wasn't just me setting boundaries anymore. HR had gotten wind of what was going on at the company my brother Ben owns. And once HR smells smoke, they start pulling every security cam and Slack log like they're running corporate CSI. It wasn't me tattling either. I didn't have to. Enough people at the office noticed Amanda and Colin circling each other like middle schoolers in a lunch line that complaints made their way upstairs on their own. So HR calls Amanda in for a Phase 1 investigatory interview. The chat where they gather facts, not hand down decisions. Not the good kind where they hand you a gift card for hitting sales numbers. The kind where you're told to bring your badge and leave your phone outside. She sits down in one of those glass-walled conference rooms that make you feel like an aquarium exhibit, with an HR rep and a compliance guy staring across the table. On the desk is a folder. Inside the folder are printed Slack messages, complete with timestamps. I saw them later. Stuff like Colin messaging her late at night with, "Wish you were still here," and Amanda firing back with, "Me too, LOL." Totally innocent, right? Just coworkers being coworkers at midnight on a Sunday? They ask her straight, "Do you acknowledge this is you? Do you confirm you sent these messages?" She tries to waffle around it, says they're personal and not relevant to her work. Compliance guy doesn't even blink, just points to the line on the company handbook that says using internal systems for off-hours personal relationships is a violation. She signs the acknowledgement that she's been shown the evidence. Or maybe she refuses? I don't know. Either way, HR notes it, records it, and slides the paper into a growing stack. Before she leaves, they tell her to expect a Phase 2 outcome meeting within days. Today is strictly fact-finding. Meanwhile, her name is already slotted for Phase 2, the outcome disposition meeting, the gavel after the intake. Calendars, not rumors, do the talking. Colin gets his own turn in the glass room, probably squirming in the same chair, pretending he's just friendly and she's exaggerating. But the paper trail speaks louder than him. Slack logs, email invites, calendar overlaps. It's all neat and dated. Now, while she's sweating under fluorescent lights, my lawyer is emailing hers. Amanda wants her stuff from the house. Fine. But I'm not giving her free rein to waltz back in like nothing's changed. We set up what's called a civil standby. Basically, she gets one-timed pickup, supervised. She shows up at the building with a concierge or sometimes even a cop standing by. She has 15 minutes to grab what she needs. And that's it. I'm not there. I'm not dealing with her tears or her excuses. I'm at work like a normal person while she's racing against the clock. The standby day rolls around. Amanda shows up with one of those reusable shopping bags. Thinks she's about to raid half the apartment. Concierge says no. You've got one box and you've got 15 minutes. She goes straight for the bedroom, grabs clothes, phone charger, laptop, some cosmetics. She reaches for jewelry, but guess what? Wedding ring is still in the mug on the nightstand. She doesn't touch it. Maybe she forgets. Maybe she doesn't want to face it. Either way, it stays behind. She fills the box, barely closes it, and by the time she drags it to the door, the concierge is saying, "All right, time's up." She pushes for more time, shoes, paperwork. Each ask gets a no. Box in hand, she's escorted out. Done. The whole thing takes less than 20 minutes, and I get a neat little report afterward. No damages, no incidents, no missing property. Clean. That's exactly how I wanted it. No chance for her to wander around, no chance for her to stall me in the kitchen, no chance for her to cry on the couch about how she didn't mean for it to go this far. She gets her essentials. I get my piece. So at this point, Amanda is out of the house with one box of clothes, a laptop, and some shampoo. She checks into a short-term extended stay, paying week to week because she doesn't even know how long she'll last there. Meanwhile, HR has her messages printed and stamped, and they're setting up her outcome meeting. Colin's in line for his too. And me? I'm in touch with my lawyer, making sure the divorce petition is ready to be served the second her termination comes down. A few quiet days pass. Outlook dings, subject line, outcome/disposition, attendance required. Amanda thinks she's just dodged a bullet by grabbing her stuff and getting out quietly. She doesn't realize she's already carrying a target on her back with HR. Once the logs are printed and filed, HR doesn't unprint them. They're in a folder forever. And once the civil standby is documented, she doesn't get another one. She's out, both personally and professionally, and it's only a matter of time before both doors close for good. On my side, quiet calendars and signed forms. The noise had finally migrated where it belonged. To her. Timeline, so it's plain. Tuesday night, the email. Wednesday, Phase 1 interview in the glass room. Friday, civil standby pickup. Early the next week, Phase 2. Colin first, then Amanda. Turns out Amanda and Colin weren't exactly subtle. They thought they were. They probably giggled about how nobody noticed. But systems remember what people forget. And the office did too. The real nail wasn't flirtation. It was the affair bleeding into work. Aligned lunches, pop-ins to meetings he didn't need, cover when he slipped out early. That's the part HR can't ignore. The complaints about her giving him slack others didn't get are what really locked it in. People on Amanda's team noticed Colin was hanging around her desk more, suddenly popping into meetings where he had no business being, and she was covering for him when he ducked out early. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out why. When people started whispering that Amanda was bending rules for Colin, HR had all the reason they needed to drag both of them into the compliance grinder. You can play dumb about an invite to dinner. You can't play dumb about a documented pattern of special treatment at work. As for Ben, the owner and my brother, he did the only smart thing left. Put it in writing that he was out. Formal recusal, conflict noted, outside counsel looped. No hallway speeches, no sidebars. He filed the memo with legal, CC'd HR and the board liaison, time-stamped it, attached the ethics hotline case number, and then kept his distance. From then on, investigation traffic skipped his inbox by rule. So, while Amanda was still trying to play pretend girlfriend with Colin, HR and outside counsel were building neat little folders with her name stamped on them. Slack logs printed, calendar overlaps highlighted, complaint forms signed, witness interviews summarized. She probably thought she could flirt her way through an investigation. Meanwhile, the compliance team was piecing together a timeline down to the minute. When Phase 1 ended, she stepped out of the glass room trying to look composed and immediately snapped, "Don't look at me!" like the whole floor had turned to stare. Someone from her team lifted a tissue. She waved it away, jaw locked. She sat, opened her laptop, typed 3 words in Slack, deleted them, shut the lid. "Cancel my next one," she told the receptionist. "Family thing." In the restroom, she must have scrubbed too hard. She came back with eyeliner smudged, grabbed a water, knocked a pen cup, said, "I'm fine," to no one. A coworker glanced at the folder. She hissed, "Can you not?" Then she bolted for the elevator, hammered the close button, vanished, only to reappear a minute later for her charger and a sweater she suddenly remembered. The bullpen did the corporate thing. Eyes down, ears open. Phase 2 wasn't on the calendar yet, but everyone felt it coming. Amanda didn't know any of this was lined up. She thought she had time. That's the funniest part. She thought she could juggle Colin, keep her job, and keep me around as backup while she figured out what she wanted. She had no idea the walls were closing in faster than she could swipe through Slack. After the timed pickup, she checked into an extended stay. 2 weeks of sticker shock later, she bailed and downgraded to a month-to-month studio over a laundromat. Detergent in the air, a rattling window unit, a hallway light that flickered like a bad omen, and a parking lot mapped in cracks. Cash up front, no questions. Perfect for someone carrying a box and a silence. Perfect for someone who just got bounced out of their marital home with one box of clothes. From that room, she went into polish mode. Updated LinkedIn, rewrote the about 3 times, and rehearsed a clean exit story in the mirror. She sketched a neat list of targets on a yellow pad, companies, titles, dates to follow up, and tried not to type the part about why she left Ben's company. She couldn't list him as a reference without it reading like nepotism, and she definitely couldn't lean on coworkers after the complaints. The few recruiters who did call ran into the same wall. Neutral employment verification only. Corporate for dates and title, nothing else. Which is a gentler way of saying you're on your own. I almost felt bad watching her scramble. But then I'd remember the dinner invite, the Slack logs, the fact that she looked me in the eye and told me she wasn't going to stop. Whatever sympathy I might have had evaporated instantly. The company didn't waste time once they had their little mountain of receipts stacked up. Colin's phase 2. Outcome meeting comes first. He probably thought he could charm his way through it. Except this wasn't coffee chat in the break room. This was where decisions landed. A formal HR and compliance outcome sit down. He sat down, they slid the folder across the table, and that folder was basically a biography of his bad decisions. Slack DMs with timestamps, email invites to Amanda with his cheesy, just you and me notes, badge swipes and floor access logs, showing him on her level way too often. HR doesn't do coincidence. His write-up spelled it out. Censure, immediate reassignment, mandatory ethics training, and the kicker, a no-contact directive regarding Amanda. That's HR's version of a restraining order. He had to sign the paper acknowledging all of it, and then security escorted him to his desk. People pretended not to watch as he loaded his box, but you know everyone peeked. Nobody ever misses a walk of shame with a cardboard box. As soon as he was gone, it was Amanda's turn. Her phase 2 outcome meeting. Same glass room, same faces, but not the phase 1 chat from earlier. This is the decision table. She sat down and they opened their folder, which was even thicker than Colin's. They walked her through everything, point by point, like it was closing arguments in a trial. They started with the Slack DMs, showing her side-by-side late-night, wish-you-were-here messages. Then came the emails. Colin inviting her out, her replying with emojis. HR read them aloud, which must have been brutal. Then they dropped the coworker complaints. Multiple people said she was giving Colin special treatment, bending scheduling rules for him, even covering for him when he skipped out early. It wasn't just maybe they're flirty. It was a fair-driven special treatment. And that's what actually sinks you at work. Amanda tried her usual spin. She said they were just talking. It wasn't against any rules. Other people chat after hours, too. HR didn't buy it. They pulled out her earlier warning about that first dinner invite. That was already on her record. And once you've been warned, you don't get to act surprised when they boot you for continuing the same nonsense. Termination effective immediately. That was the phrase. They slid the white envelope across the table. Inside was everything. Her final paycheck details, COBRA insurance paperwork, instructions to return company property, confidentiality reminders. She wasn't escorted out in handcuffs, but she may as well have been. That envelope is the corporate scarlet letter. She walked out of that glass room with the envelope in her hand, face blank, but she didn't even make it out of the building before envelope number 2 landed. That's where my process server was waiting. Not me. I wasn't about to stand there like a jealous ex. I did it clean. I hired a guy whose only job was to confirm her name, hand her the cream envelope, log the time, and leave, which is exactly what he did. She stepped into the lobby, he confirmed her name, handed over the cream envelope, and said, "You've been served. No drama." He was gone before she sat down to reach for the only person she thought would answer. She sat down on a bench in the lobby, staring at them like they were in different languages. White from HR, cream from my lawyer. She pulled out her phone and texted Colin, probably expecting him to rush in with flowers and a shoulder to cry on. His reply? 2 sentences. "Can't talk. Don't contact me." That was it. After all her late nights and risky messages, that's what she got. Colin cut her loose the second HR put him on a leash. Upstairs, Ben had just stepped out of a meeting and caught a glimpse of her through the glass lobby wall. He didn't walk over. He didn't comfort her. He didn't scold her either. He kept his recusal intact, but he did flag an HR rep, told them to make sure she had water and a ride home. Later, he texted me a short note. Saw Amanda in the lobby after her meeting. She looked shaken. Escorted out at 3:12. She's okay. No commentary, no opinions, just a timestamp and a confirmation. That's how you do it when you're the boss. Clean, professional, no liability. So by the end of that day, the scoreboard looked like this. Colin had a censure letter, a forced transfer, and a reputation as the office cautionary tale. Amanda had a termination packet, a neutral reference status, and divorce papers in her lap. HR had their compliance file closed with every signature and acknowledgement in place. My lawyer had the affidavit of service ready to file in court. And me? I had exactly what I wanted. No drama, no confrontation, just paperwork proving both her job and her marriage ended at the same time. She thought she could play both sides. She thought she could keep Colin on the hook, keep her paycheck, and keep me around as the backup option. Instead, she got cut loose from all three in one afternoon. HR dropped her, Colin dumped her, and I served her. That's not bad luck. That's just math finally catching up. She left that building carrying 2 envelopes that told the same story. You're done here. One from her employer, one from me. Both permanent. After the double envelope disaster in the lobby, Amanda's new routine looked nothing like the one she thought she'd be living. No more morning commutes and business casual. No more team lunches. No more sneaking Slack DMs during meetings. She was in a studio above the washers, where the neon hummed through the blinds, and the slight tilt of the floor sent a chair drifting on its own. The job title on her LinkedIn still said she was employed at Ben's company, but the truth was, she was jobless, broke, and spending her days trying to put together a version of her resume that didn't scream fired for office fling. She lived on her laptop, but the scattershot clicks turned into hoops. 2 timed skills assessments that locked her out at 78%, a quick recruiter screen that spent 10 minutes on explain your exit, and a take-home exercise she submitted at 1 a.m. The portal chirped, received. Then, nothing. She booked 2 informational calls. One ghosted, one turned into a sales pitch for a resume rewrite. She still logged each attempt like she was running a fantasy league, but the only points awarded were for trying. The problem was simple. She couldn't use Ben as a reference for obvious reasons. She couldn't use any of her coworkers, since they were the same people who filed complaints. All she had was neutral employment verification, which basically means HR will answer with her dates of employment and her title, nothing else. And when that's the only thing a recruiter hears, it's like telling them, yes, she worked here, but you're on your own for the rest. She finally got past a gatekeeper, an initial round over video with a hiring manager in a silent square that never turned its camera on. They walked her through a real-time case, then circled back to the hole in her timeline. She threaded the answer as best she could. They nodded, warm and vague. The follow-up was a scheduling link for next steps, then a calendar cancellation, and the classic form email a week later. She marked the attempt as a loss and poured another cheap cup of coffee in her kitchenette. Meanwhile, my lawyer was moving things forward on my end. Divorce court doesn't wait for anyone's job hunt. Once Amanda had been served, the next step was mediation. 4 chairs around a table. Amanda and her attorney on one side, me and mine on the other. No dramatic speeches, no tears, just lawyers talking terms while we sat there like background props. Her lawyer tried to push for spousal support, like she deserved to get paid for the time she spent blowing up her own career. My lawyer shut it down immediately. We both made similar money before, and she only lost hers because she couldn't keep Colin out of her Slack messages. Judges don't reward people for torching their own jobs. The settlement didn't include ongoing support. Assets were divided clean. Bank accounts, car, furniture, done, no arguments. Amanda tried to make eye contact with me once or twice, like she thought we might still have a moment. I didn't give her one. Every time she looked my way, I kept my eyes on my lawyer's notepad. The only words I spoke the entire session were yes or no when my lawyer confirmed terms with me. She wanted a fight, or maybe a crack in the wall. She got paperwork. By the end of the mediation, the draft settlement was signed. She left with her copy in a folder. I left with mine. That was the last time I'd be in a room with her, without lawyers as a buffer. Back in her studio, Amanda kept applying to jobs. The spreadsheet got longer. The rejection pile got higher. She stretched her savings with frozen dinners and bus passes. But the math wasn't on her side. Rent, food, bills. It was eating through her account faster than she could click submit on applications. Every night she sat there under the flicker of the laundromat sign, scrolling through listings that all looked the same, knowing every recruiter was going to ask the same question she couldn't answer. Why did you leave your last job? I didn't care anymore. My side was clean. The mediation wrapped up, the settlement was in motion, and the court date for the judgment was already on the calendar. She was stuck explaining herself to recruiters, while I was already out the door. That's when the grind set in for her. Jobless, broke, rejected in interviews, with nothing to show for her choices, but a spreadsheet full of red cells and a divorce file moving forward without her input. By the time we got to the end, there wasn't any suspense left. The settlement was signed, the disclosures had been traded, the lawyers had gone through everything line by line. The court entered the judgment of dissolution, and that was it. 8 years of marriage reduced to one stamped page in a county file. Clean, legal, final. The judge didn't even look up when signing it. For him, it was Tuesday. For me, it was the conclusion to a mess I never asked for. I didn't make a big production out of it. People always expect you to write some grand post about closure or new beginnings. I didn't do that. Anyone who asked got the same 3 words, "It's finalized." That was all. People love details, but I wasn't about to turn my life into gossip for the same coworkers who had already watched the Amanda and Colin circus play out in the office. Let them speculate. I had paperwork, and paperwork doesn't lie. Amanda was still in that slanted studio over the washers, savings draining in slow motion. Mornings blurred the same way. Stale coffee, the dinged laptop, another row of applications, another batch of polite rejections. She'd built a color-coded tracker: company, role, date sent, response. But the cells kept flipping to auto declines, and position closed. Then a posting popped up that looked too clean to question: remote operations coordinator, decent salary band, fast-track interview badge, a promise of same-week onboarding. She clicked through, filled the pre-interview identity form, and authenticated on what looked like a standard portal. Within an hour, her phone started vibrating like a fire alarm. Password resets she didn't request, new device alerts, a bank app block, then a burst of emails that all began with, "If this wasn't you." It was a fake pipeline. They'd fished the keys to the house. She called the bank, stumbled through security questions, and watched the fraud hold, freeze the only card she had that wasn't maxed. Her Gmail kicked her out. The resume drive wouldn't open. Venmo pinged a transfer she didn't send. In that slanted studio above the washers, she slammed the laptop shut, then opened it again, then knocked a plastic bin off the counter and said, "No, no, no," until her voice frayed. She spent the next 3 hours doing the modern version of changing locks, resetting what she could, filing a report number she couldn't pronounce, writing down case IDs on the back of an old electric bill. By midnight, the tracker had a new column: breach, and the only call she got the next day still funneled to the same checkpoint. Why did you leave your last job? Different disaster, same wall. She'd mark another row red, close the laptop, and listen to the machines drone through the floor. Meanwhile, life was moving on without her. My side of the family drew the line fast. No more invitations, no more updates, no more space for her at the table. It was nuclear family only, and she wasn't nuclear anymore. She'd lost her job, her marriage, her in-laws, and the guy she risked it all for had gone radio silent after HR smacked him with a no-contact order. She was on her own. Which brings us to the wedding. Ben and his fiancée, Lauren, hours from the ceremony, had a full family affair. Private venue, security at the gate, ushers with clipboards, everything tightly managed. My invitation came addressed to me plus a guest. Amanda's name wasn't anywhere near the guest list. She wasn't family. She wasn't invited. But of course, she showed up anyway. She arrived at the gate with an envelope in her hand like it was her golden ticket. She told the security guard she was family, that she belonged there. The guard checked the list, shook his head. Not on it. The usher stepped in, polite as always, offered to deliver her envelope inside if she wanted, but reminded her she wasn't allowed through the gate. She dug in her heels, insisting, arguing. That's when I came up from the parking lot. I saw the whole scene. Amanda in a dress that looked borrowed, clutching her envelope like it was proof she mattered, security standing firm, the usher trying to de-escalate. She spotted me immediately and turned up the volume. "I miss you. We had 8 years together. Please just talk to me." She wanted a scene. She wanted me to stop everything and act like this was some kind of movie reunion. She thought the history alone gave her leverage. It didn't. I looked at her and said 3 words. "Who are you?" That landed harder than any long speech could have. She froze like she didn't even understand what I meant. But I meant exactly what I said. The person she used to be, my wife, my partner, my best friend, that person was gone. The woman standing at the gate was just someone I used to know who burned every bridge she had. I turned to the security guard. She seems lost. Then back to her. Quiet enough for her to hear, but not for the whole gate to overhear. "This isn't your place." The usher reached out his hand for the envelope. She held on to it a second longer like it mattered. Finally, she let go. The usher promised to handle it, though everyone knew it wasn't getting past the first trash can behind the gate. Security stepped up. Not rough, not aggressive, just firm. guiding her toward the curb so she could call a ride. I walked through the gate, straight into the venue. No hesitation, no looking back. The laughter and music from inside drowned out whatever she said next. At the head table, the place card read, "My name plus guest." My seat was full, exactly where it should be. Amanda's seat didn't exist. Not at that table, not anywhere in the room, not anywhere in the family anymore. And that's how it ended. No second chances, no reconciliations, no hidden sparks waiting to reignite. Just a woman on the curb with an empty envelope and a spreadsheet of job rejections. While inside the gates, life carried on without her.